I'm looking for something. Something I do not understand.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations on the film. You know, I feel like Tron has been in our lives now for decades. And it's always interesting to hear the introduction point because it always means something to someone. So I'd love to start out just for everyone. What was your access point? What was your introduction point to Tron? And what did it mean at that time to you in your life? And Joachim, I'll start with you.
Oh, great.
I'll go first.
Yeah, you think about your answers. I'll go straight into mine.
Yeah. Everyone gets to figure out what they want to order.
Exactly. I think for me, I like to say that I was too young when the first one came out, but then Jared always talks about we're almost the same age, believe it or not. And you saying that you went to it so many times when it actually came out, and I don't remember it like that when I was 10 years old or whatever. So for me it was more like something that grew on me later. But I do remember actually having the poster on my wall in my room growing up because I loved the aesthetics of it. I thought it was such a cool, the original poster. And so that was a big moment when we were shooting this film. How there's a scene in the movie where we did our best to really mimic the original poster in the film, and that's like when I saw that, being created and coming alive, and actually see it on the big screen, and that homage to the original poster. That was a big moment for me.
That's awesome. Greta, what about for you?
Oh, I feel like I should go last.
And I already told Jared.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I wasn't quite born yet when the first one came out. Yeah, so. No, I wasn't aware of the original until much later. But I also knew it more as a cultural phenomenon. I knew it through fashion, actually. And I knew that there was this huge franchise that just had like such a huge impact on so many different pockets of culture. And then it wasn't until really getting involved with this third installment that I went deep and became a full Tron head and went to Tron school and did all of that. But it was so inspiring to be surrounded by people. I remember days when you would tear up a little bit and feel really affected by, I know, tell them. I know, Eris. So anyways, yeah. No, but you could really feel collectively how much it meant to everyone, to the cast and to the crew. There's so many, like walking on those huge practical sets and picking up different items. And it made for a really joyful environment for us to work.
And you could tell when you watch a film. Jared, you were a Tron head from the start?
Is that the official term?
Greta just coined it.
Yeah.
Greta just
coined
it. Yeah.
I was a Tron head.
Yeah.
It was 1982. I was 12 years old. I went to the movie theater because that's what you did. And I just fell in love. It was the first film, I believe, that used computer graphics. And it took me to a place that I never even imagined before. I played the video game as well, incessantly. We used to go to a place called Cumberland Farms. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's like a East Coast 7-Eleven. And, just be, burying quarters in that machine all day. But I loved Tron. There's something about the combination of technology and creativity that really struck a chord with me. And then 2010 came around, and as a Tron head, I was like, oh yes, another Tron. I get to go back into the grid, and I thought that film was awesome. And then around 2014, I got a call, and they asked me if I was interested in being part of a sequel to the previous movie, and it didn't quite work out at that time, but there was a character in it. I said, if you ever want to visit this character named Ares, give me a call. And a couple of years later, they called me, and we started trying to figure this out. And it's been like, I guess, 9 years or something, 10 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's great. Evan, for you.
I can't follow that. I don't know how old I was. It was 90s, I guess, 93, 94 or something. And I faked sick from school, and my brother's friend came over. And I loved the CGI of the 90s, like Jurassic Park and all that stuff just coming to life. And he was like, oh man, you should watch Tron. It was the first one that did it all. And I watched it, and it was pretty old compared to the the CGI that I was seeing, but it still sucked me in, and it's such a cool world and visually captivating. So yeah, that was my introduction to
That's
it.
great. There's so much imagination in it, Gillian. What about for you? What did it mean to you when you first discovered Tron?
I think that because I was born in '68, the first sci-fi films period that I had seen were seeing Star Wars in the movie theater when it came out in Leicester Square in London, and also then Close Encounters. And so Tron being added to that, it feels like that's kind of the triptych of what sci-fi meant to me. So that then years later, when I was then asked to do the X-Files, which was my own, version of stepping into that world, it felt like I was stepping into something that was much bigger than potentially even the world through the door of X-Files. It felt like because of what sci-fi was and how the different worlds that it was represented in, that, I don't know, it felt like I was part of a club in a way, kind of like a cult club and so, yeah, I don't remember actually going to the theater back then, but then when my much younger brother discovered it, I think is when I then rediscovered it all again, and it was very meaningful for him. And I think he dressed up for like Halloween for a while. He would go in like his version of light suits and stuff like
That's
that.
awesome.
So
yeah, I can't wait to see the Halloween costumes this year.
Right?
I watched this film in IMAX, and I feel like you don't just watch this film in IMAX, you feel this film. A lot of that has to do with the music from Nine Inch Nails, which is just incredible. It courses through you while you watch this movie. I'm curious, Joachim, maybe you can start in terms of how that collaboration first came together, and then what your strategy was for matching the music to the scene that it best fit into.
Yeah, and I think like music is such a big part of this franchise, starting with Wendy Carlos in '82, and obviously Daft Punk, and then going into this. So that was a big part of the discussions we had very early on. Like the moment I got on board like 3 years ago, it was what we talked about. It was like, who was going to do the music? And it was a very short list, honestly. And obviously Trent and Atticus, they were always on it. And then I think it was someone at Disney, I think it was Tom McDougall running Disney Music, that said, should we ask them to do it as Nine Inch Nails? And we were like, oh my God, that would be, and a little bit back and forth. And then we got there. So I knew that Nine Inch Nails were going to do the music when we did principal photography. So I will always listen to it a little bit, because I wanted this Tron to be a little bit like more a little grittier, a little more industrial, and having the contrast between the digital world and the real world. And I think Nine Inch Nails just lends itself to that. And then we started working together, and I was a little bit nervous going into, I never met Trent and Atticus before, and Nine Inch Nails. Like, I had an image in my mind about them, and, like a little hardcore, like punk technology, but they were so lovely, honestly. And the relationship we've had now over the last year, just working it out. And at the same time, I'm not doing this with them as just, score composers to the film. They're doing it as their band. So I very early on, felt that I should take more of the back seat than what I usually do when I'm working with a film composer, and just let them do it more. And it's been one hell of a ride.
That's awesome. Greta and Jared, speaking of the music, I feel like in a lot of ways this movie is a love letter to chase sequences. I mean, the chase sequences in this film are incredible. And I especially love the one that begins in the parking lot. It gives me like Terminator 2 vibes, and then it kind of spills out into the streets of the city. And so for Greta and Jared, I'm curious to get your perspectives on filming a sequence like that and what it was like for you. We got light cycles, we got chases, and I think Jodie's amazing too. And so I'm just curious to get your perspective on shooting a sequence like that.
I don't know why, but I'm getting the feeling you want me to.
What do you think, Greta?
It was wild. I mean, we were doing so much for real. We had these huge practical sets, but we were shooting so much on location. I think we had like, what, six weeks of night shoots, which I think is unheard of because it's borderline inhumane. We really pushed it.
It's Vancouver in the winter.
Yeah, sure. It's easy. It's fine. I got to know some of those intersections very intimately, lying on the ground.
Those are our intersections.
That's right. Light rain sprinkling down.
Yep.
No, but it was really, I think we all were happy to step up to that challenge because when you see the movie, I feel like you can tell it feels real. The whole goal for us from the beginning was really trying to capture what it would be like for someone watching to feel like they were on that ride and they were riding the light cycle with us.
You had to do a lot of running too.
So much running. I'm just gonna read scripts totally differently now. It's running to circle it, running. Because it's also the kind of running, it's not like Tom Cruise, beautiful. You have to run like your life depends on it. And you don't do that just once. So I would argue, even if you were an Olympic runner, you can't do. I mean, I want to see those guys do it, 20 times? Like,
I don't
out
think
in
they
the
can.
streets? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And for Jared, for you, I also think Aries, there's a lot of nuance to that performance. He's a computer program going through this sort of self-realization, self-discovery. So, how, you could speak to that sequence, but also speak to like how you found the character and what was sort of, was there a moment or a detail or something that helped you access him?
Yeah, a great question. I think what I liked the most about the character, it was actually really challenging for me. I struggled a bit with Aries, but what I did respond to is this big question: what does it mean to be alive? And I was also fascinated with the fact that, like, when the first film came out in 1982, computers and video games were blowing up, right? That's what everyone was talking about. Now, it's artificial intelligence. And in fact, when we were working on the script all those years, there's so many times we had to evolve because what we were talking about was dated. A film like this, I would be standing on the set and they would yell action, and I'd have to really make an effort to stop smiling because I'd look down, I'd see this suit on, I'd be in these practical sets, and it was just like a childhood dream come true. So I just feel grateful, man. I'm excited for people to see this movie in IMAX, to be able, I wish I got to see the first film in IMAX. That would have been incredible. But to see it in IMAX, it's that type of movie that compels you to go to the theater and have this visceral experience. And I hope there's a kid out there that watches this movie and gets inspired like I did. Yeah.
Right on, yeah. I think the great thing about this film, and I don't want to spoil it, is that you can kind of experience the first film a little bit in IMAX, or at least the vibes of that first film.
Oh, first rule, my man.
But, Evan and Gillian, I just, quickly for you two, it feels like your characters are in this battle between family drama and digital armies. Which one is scarier for each of your characters? And Evan, you look like you're having a blast with this guy.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to play.
You filled that space. You filled that.
Yoakum's like, just tone it down. Bring it down.
But the intensity of his performance is so. We were in the equivalent of airplane hangars, right? And the first day I walked onto set, it was literally an empty space for as far as you can see, and blue screen on the walls because it was all going to be, filled in later, which is obviously the nature of doing things CGI. But to then go in and have, an intimate, intense scene, bringing with it all the history of your, however many years, 3-decade-long relationship or whatever is a big ask. So that was the only thing I was thinking about. You know, but it's yeah. I mean, we had a 2-hour conversation before we started working. Yeah.
Starting rolling.
yeah, before we started work. Yeah, but it was you know, it was a joy and it was fun. It's always, I mean, that's always part of the challenge, right? That's always the joy of the challenge is how to layer the history so that it doesn't just feel, you know, thin.
Yeah. Yes. And for you, Evan, same. Yeah, you
I
got to get slapped. Right
Oh, and there's that. And then there's that.
Yeah.
Yes, my favorite scene.
Yeah, you had a blast. You kept asking for more takes on that.